Okay, so my campaign is called the GVSU Speech Lab, Let's Talk Numbers. So a little bit about the campaign before we start. All of the research that was conducted in fall of 2019. It's for the CAP 220 class, and the goal of it is to help the Speech Lab increase numbers and get a little bit more awareness through students at Grand Valley. So, secondary research, the fear of public speaking is called glossophobia, and it affects a lot of students and a lot of people all throughout the world. There was a study that was done that took 50 college students and they asked them questions, and one of the questions was if they feared public speaking. So out of the 50, 75% said yes. So that's a large number. With that being said, we do have a speech lab at Grand Valley, and they are one of 16 that are nationally certified by the NACC. Their mission is to empower students and help them shape their lives through confidence and effective public speaking. So this goal of the campaign is to raise awareness of the Speech Lab and continue to have them increase their appointments and just make better connections with students all across campus. So to start off the research, I conducted a focus group, and it took place with 5 student athletes from Grand Valley. We did it in the hotel, or the lobby of a hotel, so it was a nice open area. People felt like they could say what they needed to say. It wasn't crowded or anything like that. So we started off with an icebreaker, and it was to make everyone feel comfortable with talking, so it was kind of a goofy icebreaker. Everyone had to pick an animal and make their best noise of that animal that they could, just to kind of get any giggles out or anything like that. So after we did that, we started asking questions. I gave a little introduction about what I was going to be talking about, and we got right into questions. So the first question I asked them was if they had any current knowledge about the Speech Lab. And only one of them knew what the Speech Lab was, and to follow that, none of them had ever used the Speech Lab. So not only did they not know, they've never used it, don't know what it is, don't know what they do. So that was kind of a kickstart to the focus group to get them going, get them thinking about it. So I explained a little bit about what the Speech Lab does and what they did. So then I asked them if they had ever even seen an advertisement for the Speech Lab. And not a lot of them did. In fact, only one of them did, and it was a poster. Yeah, so after we conducted the focus group, I got some really good information, and I used that information to build a survey. So I could send the survey out to more student athletes, and it wouldn't be a face-to-face conversation. It was just a way to get quick information back. So there's 10 questions on the survey, pretty similar to the focus group, and I was able to get 30 responses for the survey. They were all student athletes, which is a big part of this campaign. So based on the results of the survey, there were 75% who had never heard of the Speech Lab. So it's very similar to the focus group in terms of numbers. And 50% of respondents, after we talked about it, said that they would consider making an appointment with the Speech Lab if they did need help with the speech or anything like that. I also wanted to find out a little bit more in terms of where they walked around on campus so we could figure out a good spot where advertisements could go. And the field house was the highest foot traffic among the athletes that answered the survey. And I wanted to see who they follow on social media. So I think it was 95% of them followed GVSU Lakers on Twitter, which will be an important part of the campaign in a little bit. So for an action plan, situational analysis, the GVSU Speech Lab is special to Grand Valley because it is one of 16 in the country that does what it can do. And their consultants are all students. So you get a nice connection, someone who knows exactly what you're going through and can help you in a way that they could know your professor or anything like that. So a SWOT analysis of them. So a couple of strengths. They have a steady increase in appointments over the years. They help with not only speeches, but presentations and building presentations, which can be really helpful. They have really good hours, and they have 2 different locations on our campus, and then they have a location on the downtown campus, which is also very convenient if you live downtown. Some weaknesses that they have, not many people know of their success at a national level, so they go to a convention every year and they win awards nationally, but not many people know that. There's also a common miscommunication that they only do speeches, and not a lot of people know that they help with presentations. So some opportunities they have coming out of that, they can really boost their social media if they worked on it, because social media is a huge way to connect with students and faculty. And more advertising. Clearly from the focus group and the survey, they didn't realize that there was even advertising being done, let alone have they seen it. But some threats that they have is there's a very big misconception that the Writing Center and the Speech Lab are the same thing, because they're not. And a lot of people that I talk to think that they are the same thing or think that they are together. And there is just a lack of knowledge about what they do and how they can help students. So with that being said, for this campaign, I would like to focus on targeting student athletes, because I think they could really benefit from the Speech Lab, especially with having such a busy schedule and not having a lot of time for school. So objectives for the campaign: number 1, have 20% of student athletes utilize the Speech Lab by the end of the academic school year, so the 2019 to 2020 academic school year. Second objective is increase the awareness of the Speech Lab by student athletes by 50% by the end of the academic school year. And then the third objective is have the Speech Lab gain at least 100 followers on social media by the end of the academic school year. So some strategies to help those objectives be complete. Strategy 1 is increase advertising methods aimed at student athletes. So that would be a good example of where the high foot traffic in the field house could be a good area. Strategy 2, create knowledge that the athletes will have about Speech Lab. So that could be anything from doing a press release in the Lanthorn to doing a podcast, anything like that. And then strategy 3 is target student athletes to build better social media presence. So that could be incorporating the GVSU Lakers account. So the tactics that will make those strategies complete: we're going to do a promotional event that the Speech Lab will sponsor, and it will happen at a women's basketball game. So the event will be targeted to student athletes, and it will be a competition. So the team on campus that can answer the most amount of trivia questions at the women's basketball game about the Speech Lab will win customized graphics, so sports graphics for each person on their team. And so that'll be sponsored by the Speech Lab, so everyone will know, and they're going to learn something about the Speech Lab. So that will help increase their knowledge. We're going to do a social media campaign to boost those 100 followers. So what we're going to do is the Speech Lab is going to partner up with GVSU Lakers. That is the main athlete Twitter for Laker athletics. They have somewhere around like 10,000 followers. So that account is going to tweet a contest. The contest is going to be student athletes who follow the GVSU Speech Lab, tweet a fun fact about them and tag them in the tweet, then retweet the GVSU Lakers tweet, will be entered to win a Laker prize pack, which will be a GVSU Lakers shirt, a ball cap, and a phone adhesive wallet that you can stick your credit cards in. That will increase the awareness by a lot, and it will encourage them to follow the Speech Lab on social media where they can learn more about it. The final tactic that we're going to do is a press release in the Lanthorn. So it'll basically just be a story that just explains who the Speech Lab is, what they do, how they can help you. And we're going to strategically place it right next to the athletics section in the Lanthorn. So when athletes are reading about whatever's going on in the athletic community, they might have a good chance of reading what's next to it. So those are the 3 tactics. The calendar for that, the promotional event will be advertised by poster in the field house all of January, and it will happen in February. The social media campaign will happen 3 different times, so there will be 3 different contests. Once in February, once in April, once in July. And then the press release will be at the very beginning of the winter semester, so in January. So that way people will hear about it right away and they can use it for the rest of the semester, keep it in mind that they could use the Speech Lab for anything that could come. Budget, Twitter posts will be free, that's the nice thing, but the prize package will be somewhere around $150, because it'll be about $50 a package. If we do it 3 times, it's $150. The sports graphics, it'll be very simple because it will be the same background, just the player's picture, so it'll be very easy to make. That'll be $100 if you're really feeling like you're going to give them a lot. Flyers for the event be 10 cents each. If we make 100, that'll be $10. So the press release will be free. It's just in the Lanthorn, nothing that needs to be paid for. So we're looking at a total of $260 for this campaign, which is relatively cheap. considering the outcomes that it could have. We are going to do 2 evaluations of this campaign, one in April, so it'll be about midway through the rest of the campaign if it starts in January, ends in July. And then one will be at the end of July. So when everything is said and done, that will be the final evaluation. So here's an example of a promotional flyer for the event. Just gives some general explanation about where it's at, what it is, gives a pretty accurate example of what the sports graphic could look like. Here is an example of the social media campaign. So it would just be a tweet that would come from GVSU Lakers that just explains everything about it and what they would win. And then this is an example of the press release, which again holds the basic information about the speech lab. So when we evaluate, we'll go specific by the objectives. So for example, if you have 20% of student athletes utilize the speech lab by the end of 2019-2020 academic school year, the way that we will evaluate that is we'll send out a post survey to those who answered the first one, asking if they did in fact use the speech lab, if they did learn more about it, if their awareness increased, simple stuff like that. That'll be the same for the other 2 in terms of evaluation. So obviously we can look at numbers before the press release and then after to see if they did in fact rise. That would be based on the timing of the press release. And then for the 100 followers on social media, it's very simple to evaluate because it will only be a matter of counting how many followers they gained after the contest. And if, for example, we didn't see as big of an increase after the first contest that we would like to, we can then adjust the second contest to hopefully gain more followers. And that is the whole campaign. Do you guys have any questions?